Hi, this is Fran from Chile, and I just wanted to let you know that I am one of those people that has a tattoo about the show. I have a pineapple tattoo on my arm, and I really hate it now because it's a really ugly tattoo. It's a really ugly pineapple. It's not well made, but I got it with a friend, and I always knew I wanted my first tattoo to be about the show, about How I Met Your Mother. So me and my friend got it together. She's got a pineapple on her arm as well, but I would never cover it up or remove it with laser because it holds a really special space in my heart because it's about the show and it's about my friendship with her. So it's just something I really hate, but I really love at the same time.
I'm alone. What a pity I won't be soon in New York City. When I see you, please permit me to tell you everything in New York City.
Hello, welcome to another episode of How We Made Your Mother. I'm Josh Radner. I am joined, as ever, by Craig Thomas. Hi, Craig.
Hey, Josh. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm pretty good. I feel like tech, not so smart, but I had trouble getting on and figuring out the mic today. But you know what? We figured it out. And we're very excited because we are joined by Professor Carter Bays. Is here with us to
what's up? Prof Bays.
Yes,
Carter Bays
Prof
is in the house. It's a special day. We love CB.
Episode 10. Yeah, how do you spell professor?
Two Fs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is here to discuss episode 10 of How I Met Your Mother, which is the show under discussion, under consideration. We're working our way through all 208 episodes, and we're on episode 10. So we're cruising along. And this is a famous, I would say this is a famous episode, certainly one of the season one standouts. It's called The Pineapple Incident, and it was written by who wrote this?
Me and Carter, bro.
Oh,
these two MFers right here.
Yeah, you guys wrote this. And why don't we start? Well, one, I love that letter, and I love
so great.
The tattoo, the pineapple.
I wish
tattoo.
The tattoo was better. I wish the tattoo was she was happier
you know
with the tattoo.
It feels perfect to me. It feels
poetic.
Like when you think about your 20s, you love them and hate them. So
she woke up with a kind of a crappy tattoo on her
tattoo,
arm.
yeah.
It's like the butterfly tattoo. That was so great. Amazing. We're honored you would put a bad tattoo on your body on account of our show. We're very honored by that. It's very cool. Carter, the one thing I was thinking, and I wish I had this list. This idea, and I think it was your idea, this idea was on our initial idea list we submitted to the network and the studio.
I gotcha.
You're kidding me.
No, I actually
have
it.
The professor. Of course he has
I prepared for this thing. I prepared for this thing.
How do you have it?
I searched my emails. You know, honestly, I was searching my emails May 2005.
So I probably have it.
20 years, 2 decades ago right now.
Wow.
Essentially. This was one of the two I found. It was all I found a document that I'd emailed to myself that probably came from us like brainstorming, and I just wanted to save it. Yeah. I lost my hard drive in some catastrophic way like 10 years ago, but I still have anything I attached in an email still exists.
Yeah.
So I was able to sort of pull this out of the rubble of.
Did I explain what this is enough? It's when you make a pilot, you are asked as they're trying to decide whether or not to pick up your pilot. They say, "Can you give us some other ideas of what other episodes in season 1 might look like?" Carter and I did that, and I would say an impressive number of those ideas made it into season 1, including the pineapple incident.
Right? The document I had only had two. One of them was OK Awesome, and one of them was the pineapple incident.
Oh, I thought there were more. I said that about OK Awesome. Yeah,
I think there were maybe a few others in the actual document that we sent. Right. But yeah, it was so funny. It was called Drunken Fiasco at the time. Like that was what the idea was saved as. And I remember it was like one of the first ideas we had for the show. Like, what do we do with these 5 characters we've concocted? Yeah. And if I remember correctly, it's maybe the second episode we actually wrote of the show. From what I recall, we had painted ourselves into this crazy corner of like and that's how I met your Aunt Robin. And it's like, all right, how do we transition Robin into being part of the friend group? Yep. And that created a huge dilemma. And we like had to spend like weeks breaking the Three Parties episode. But this one, it was sort of like right out of the gate. It was like, while we're fresh on these characters, let's write this real fast. So I think we took it in the room. I think it was the first thing we broke in the room.
Wow, I forgot this, Carter, entirely. I entirely forgot that.
It was one of the most, I think that one and OK Awesome, actually. I think we're both broken before that because we wanted to like just sort of like get a handle on writing this show.
I remember being paralyzed with fear about episode 2. What is episode 2 going to be? And I think we probably did that thing where you punt the thing you're scared of and you write this other shinier, fun, like standalone. Yeah. Maybe that's what we did. I think that's what we did. It's all coming back to me now.
And it's funny because I was looking over it. It really was like we did 90% of the work before it even arrived in the writer's room. Like it was like the document that I had and I didn't print it out, but it's almost exactly the story as it unfolds in the show. I was kind of
so just for our listeners,
should we logline it?
To refresh, or if you're listening to this or just not even seeing the episode, just give us the kind of pitch of what this episode is. Synopsis.
It's okay. So Ted and Robin are friends now, but Robin has a date with a rich guy, a billionaire. We call him a 100 millionaire.
We call you round up.
And Ted is a bucket of his brain is a bucket of neuroses, which I think was maybe Chris Miller's line that ended up in the script. And he's given the advice by his friends to take 5 shots and get super drunk to stop thinking so much. And he gets drunk. He blacks out. He wakes up the next morning. There's a pineapple on the nightstand next to his bed. There's a girl in the bed with him, and it's him figuring out what happened the night before and sort of unraveling that mystery. I remember when the movie, the easier way to give the log line is it's The Hangover. We did The Hangover, and it was like 5 years before The Hangover came out.
Way before The Hangover.
Let's be clear about that.
Let's be very clear.
And I've been trumpeting about that for years without really remembering that actually Dude, Where's My Car did this 3 years before we did. So,
we're all standing on the shoulders of giants.
We're all standing on the shoulders of Dude, Where's My Car? But
and it's a mystery. It's if you had to boil the show's DNA down to like the microcosmic episodes that were mysteries within this show that was itself a larger mystery in question. Whenever we could do an episode that was its own little mystery, which is so many of these episodes have some element or the main element that is some kind of an unraveling mystery. None more than this in season 1. This is a real mystery. Who is that girl in that bed? What happened? And it's one of my favorites because of that, because it's just working off of like, it's us discovering what the motor of the show is. Little mysteries within a larger mystery is kind of the show. And Josh, you're so good in this episode. This is such a great Ted episode. I really was. I hadn't watched this one in years. Rebecca and I sat there watching it last night and we're like, this is a tour de force from Radner.
Oh,
this is a really good one for you.
I had a hard time watching 50% of it. For some reason,
Really?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But a couple things really made me laugh that took me by surprise. Carl writing on Ted's arm and him getting tickled was very funny to me.
Hard laugh on my couch.
I love the line. What was it? I need to see some pandas
I need to see some penguins like right now.
I need to see some penguins.
I rewound that line and made us watch it twice last night. Rebecca and I watched that line twice.
That was very...
I feel like that one, because I know we gave you the note B. Dudley Moore, essentially, in this episode. Like B. Arthur.
B. Arthur.
And the delivery of that line especially felt like that was
instead I heard B. Arthur, do it like B. Arthur.
Yeah, do it like B. Arthur. Yeah, call everyone Rose. No, but the way like you sort of like garbled the G in penguins, like pangolins. I need to see some pangolins right now.
Right.
Like right now.
You know what else is just so funny to me is like everyone putting him to bed and him just like ending up right back in that bar.
Yeah.
Where did my horse Windjammer? What the hell?
Windjammer.
Where did that come from?
That really made me laugh. Yeah. I feel like Windjammer has you written all over it, Carter. Isn't that a Carter Bays line? It was not me. That's a great line. Go to my stables. He's so drunk. He thinks he has stables.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
We'll be right back.
Josh, how much do you think about your wardrobe when you're on tour playing shows, or night to night, or how much are you thinking about, what am I wearing while I'm playing this show?
Not a lot, because I actually underpacked because I was worried that I would have too much merch to take back. So I left a lot of room in my suitcase, and I didn't.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I also my style is very casual, but I sometimes overthink it. Yeah.
Well, you know
it's
what?
more about comfort. You know what I'm saying?
It's more about comfort. Everything you just said, I've got the solution for it. Ready?
Yeah.
I know, it's not my solution. This is a commercial for Quince. Yes, with Quince, you can get a high-end style upgrade with versatile pieces at prices that don't break the bank.
That sounds
Those are all
nice.
my words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quince
Now
has all the must-haves, like Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. Iconic 100% leather jackets. I thought that was going to say leather pants, and I was like, "Are those back?" Leather jackets for $100, and comfortable pants for every occasion, and also stuff that you can get your wife, which I did, which you didn't, but I got stuff
I know.
for my wife.
We got a free thing from Quince, and they were nice enough to give us stuff. I ordered myself a lovely sweater for me, and then Josh was like, I got something for my wife, and I felt like the worst person in the world. So Quince, we'll talk. Quince will side. I'm addressing Quince directly now. We'll sidebar. I'll get some for my wife. Hey, listen to this. The best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us.
And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. It's great. Along with premium fabrics and finishes. I will say I enjoyed my sweater so much that was free that I went and bought a couple pairs of jeans, and those were great too. I'm just throwing that in there, Quince. You can send me more free stuff too, or my wife. Just my wife.
Indulge in affordable luxury. Go to quince.com/yourmother for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/yourmother to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/yourmother. Alec, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you ever leave your house and go places?
As seldomly as I could, but there have been times I've left.
Yeah, you get to a certain age and you just want to hunker down. And
I don't want to go anywhere.
Where have you been recently outside of the home?
I went on a big trip. I went to Sancerre.
Sancerre?
Ouais, Sancerre.
That's in France?
It is in France. It clearly is in France.
Wow. How was that? What were you doing there?
It's an incredible town. I was taking a language course for 2 weeks, 4 hours a day. Immersed in French in this beautiful
We get it.
town.
You're smarter than us. Just move through.
It's 1,000 years old. But I'll tell you this. I don't. It's very famous Sancerre. It's very famous for wine and cheese. I don't drink wine and I don't eat cheese.
Oh.
I was in the wrong town, but it was beautiful. It's an amazing place, and now I'm doing research for a project that I'd like to do there.
Oh, fantastic! Are you aware of how much money you lost by not hosting your home on Airbnb while you were in Sancerre?
Boom! You didn't see that coming, did you, Al?
No.
You thought you were all smart with your Sancerre language class. Guess what? You lost out on making money with your apartment. You could have been hosting it on Airbnb while you were in Sancerre. Alec, your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host.
And now, back to the show. I had more. I like, as an actor, I watched it and I could feel like I knew I was the comedic motor of the episode, and I think I sometimes look at it and I think like, oh, I would just play that differently, or I'd like throw that away, or I wouldn't hit that so hard. Like you do a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking 20 years later after watching
This is a very distant Monday morning, by the way.
Yeah. This is a couple. Yeah. And then, but the morning after, I found myself more watchable for a number of reasons, but one of which I just felt like I had a little bit more of like honest verbs to play. Like what happened? Like, tell me what happened. Like, I felt there was more grounded sincerity in the kind of morning after stuff.
Yeah.
But this episode, like I remember when I read this, I was like, oh, this is a gift. Like this is a comedy gift. And I think I felt a little bit like the pressure of delivering comedically.
Interesting. So what do you mean? Do you mean like when you watch it, you feel like, you think to yourself, I was pushing too much because I knew it was this opportunity, so I was amped up. It doesn't play that way to me. I thought I loved rewatching it. I thought it was great. This is a great portrait of how crazy we all are and how brutally too hard on ourselves we are. Even 20 years later, that is an A+, man. That is one of the best TED episodes, right, Carter? I love that we're peeling back the psyche.
I have some notes on the editing, but I think that the performances are great. Yeah,
maybe it's a little bit of like watching. Like I care about that character, which I found is actually a good sign. It's not just because I played him. Like I'm actually invested in him already as a viewer, and I feel some real distance from the fact that I was actually doing those things. But there is a sense that, the more he keeps calling Robin, you just feel like it's like the calling the answering machine in Swingers. You're like, stop.
Yeah.
It's painful to watch. Yes, it's painful to watch.
It's a little painful to watch. But then, I don't know, there's also something funny about like his complete confidence with Trudy in the bathroom. Like he really, like he turns off his brain. Like, I mean, that's kind of what the episode's about.
Yeah, he turns off his brain. Yeah, and there are some results. He does get some results from it. That's really interesting. And I like the morning after when Robin is playing Ted, that clip of him making the crazy sound for 3.5 minutes, and Ted's defense of it is like, without a breath, that's got to be some kind of record. Like Ted's trying to sort of make lemonade out of this situation. I thought you played that really funny. Yeah, but that's interesting because you're not usually on this show. You were not usually asked to be the Tasmanian devil out of control.
Right.
Ted is like, in this episode, Ted's like a baby that keeps crawling out into traffic.
That's 100% what it is. That's exactly what it is.
And it's funny that you watch that and you go, wait, what am I doing in this episode? But it's so great. That's what's so great about it, I think. You really were. You played out of control very well, I thought.
Yeah. Well, I think you had established enough of his, like, sanity to then, by episode 10, you could make him insane, and there's a lot of comedy fuel in that.
Yeah, it was the right moment to sort of twist Ted and show him in some different light. And it's all born. I mean, Carter, I think part of this episode is us going like, we need to escalate this Robin situation a little bit, right? This one launches into a few episodes. Like this was us kind of turning up the heat under the, like Ted's drunkenly calling Robin at 2 a.m. Like this is a problem, right? This sort of spun us out season wise into like that coming back around, didn't it? That was part of the point of this one.
Yeah, I guess it did. I'm trying to remember where the show. I mean, I guess it's. What is this, 11? This is 11th
10,
one,
and then we
gets into like the wedding.
The wedding stuff. Yeah,
and that's where it kind of comes to a head. So yeah.
This was like starting to turn up the simmer on Ted and Robin a little bit here.
So I'm curious where, I mean, if I've been asked about one thing, like, I don't know that I've been asked about anything more than like, what the hell was the pineapple? Like, and I know we kind of solved it in a DVD extra. Isn't there something where we actually solved it?
There is, but
no, a lot of people haven't seen it. But
it's not canon, if we can use that word, because I feel like
it's like an extra.
I'm so glad we didn't solve that, and I like that it's just like
to put it in.
It's an unknown.
To put it in Jewish terms, this is the Torah, and that is the Talmud. It's just the commentary.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. Okay, so
Hemingway claims to be as good as the Torah. Spinning headline. What a bunch of assholes.
That's what gets us canceled. Unbelievable. So where did the notion of this pineapple, like where'd that come from? Do you guys remember?
We wanted one thing to be unknown, right? It was just I bet it doesn't.
I think the pineapple came out of the room. That's as close as I can get to an answer. It's same. Not in the. In fact, in the. We still have that amazing sort of quasi animated moment of like things flying as he gets drunk and the memories, but the pineapple wasn't in that list of things. So I came out of the room. I don't know. I think pineapple's like it's just part of it is it's a funny word. It's a funny fruit. Yeah, it's a ridiculous looking fruit.
It looks like a comedy. It's a comedy in real life.
It is a comedy fruit, and it's also like. Any bigger and it'd be less funny, and any smaller it'd be less funny. Like it's the perfect size for a mysterious object. Like an apple sitting by your bed is like, someone put that there. Like who cares? A pineapple
is a vegetation. It shouldn't be in a temperate climate.
It always looks crazy. It always looks crazy. Even if you know you bought it, it still looks crazy.
And it's a porcupine. It's like an edible porcupine.
It's a porcupine.
Yeah. But it has, I think, entered. I mean, it is certainly in the canon of beloved How I Met Your Mother props and images. You know, if someone makes a collage of How I Met Your Mother, there's a pineapple in there.
Yeah. It's a top 5 tattoo.
Yeah.
Of the show.
Top 5 bad tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I'll say that the proudest moment I had working on the show at all is that in the final DVD box set, the big box that has all of it, I wrote to some random person and said, "Could we get a pineapple sticker to be on that box?" And there is a, when you buy that originally,
nice.
I
know that sticker. I remember that.
Yeah, we
have on you
that still.
Yeah. It just occurs to me, and this is we try to really academic this show into the ground, but it occurs to me that the
professor's here.
There's a microcosm of the actual show within the show here, which is memory is fallible. How do we remember what happened? How do we piece
especially because
together?
Craig and I were very drunk for most of that time.
We don't remember writing this. It was a script and a pineapple. We woke up the next morning. We go, all right, we'll use both.
But it's true.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true. It is memory is fallible. I love that blackout moment, Carter. I love that moment so much. The blackout moment and then into the crazy images flying, because it's just one of those, it's like, you'll see all of these things. All of these things will be part of the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like in the opening couple minutes of the show, you're going to have to check all these boxes. Yeah. The red dragon is the name of Carter. And there had to be one that didn't get explained. That's why I know we did that DVD extra about the captain and all this, so people can look it up if they want. I do like it being unexplained, even though we went on to explain it.
Yeah, I feel like we should disavow that.
We disavow. It was fun.
It's unexplained. It's a mystery.
There had to be one thing that didn't get solved. There just did.
Yeah. And it's an amazing thing, though, to have a standalone episode that has just enough, gets like just enough yards on the field down, like closer to the, like, because you're barreling toward you actually at this point, episode 10, are you thinking about, had we been picked up for back 9? Like when you're writing this, had we been picked up for back 9?
We've been picked up.
So you've got 22.
Yeah.
And you've got your eyes on the goal. So you're still like, you're planting seeds. The Robin stuff is still, it's like moving the ball down the field.
It does. It escalates that situation in a really good way. And the next few episodes benefit from that. But yeah, it is. It's like memory is fallible. And
your 20s are a bit of a blur anyway.
Your 20s are a blur. Yeah. The very act, Ted is doing in that episode what the future narrator is attempting to do in 2030, which is just construct from these memories, try to put it into some sort of coherent story. Yeah. It's such a microcosm of the whole overall endeavor in a way, which I love.
When you guys rewatched, what were other things that struck you?
I took notes. Let me see. I was drunk when I was taking notes, though, so I don't know what any of this means.
By the way, this is an intervention for you.
Well, one thing that I'm remembering about it was that the thing that I felt was a small rebellion in this episode. The way it was structured was. It doesn't have a B story, which I really liked. I remember being on a bit of a crusade against B stories in general, just as a part of, because it's a show about storytelling, and when you tell a story, you don't say like, but meanwhile over here, this completely unrelated thing that we just needed to give these actors something to do this week was going on. It's like that and okay, awesome. I think it's not accidental that those were like the first two that sort of as we were writing the DNA for the show, we sort of picked two stories that there's like concurrent action going on in different places, but it's all of a piece and it's all like working towards telling one big story that week. And I remember especially that first, because the first year we were working with, we were in a writer's room that no one had ever seen an episode of How I Met Your Mother before. And so like, we didn't know exactly what it was. And I remember that was something that we had to, I don't know if this holds up. It probably doesn't, but like, I feel like many of our best episodes don't have B stories. And I think that was not something you saw on a multicam show with a 5-person cast. There's
also something true about a group of friends. Like when every once in a while, like you trade off being the main character, like quite literally, like in your friend group. Like if you have a night where you wake up, you black out, you wake up in the bed with a girl, you don't know who it is, and a pineapple, like no one's going on what happened in your night. Like it's like you're focused.
that's the headline.
That's the headline. That's the story, and that's all anyone cares about. They don't even want to be the main character. They just want to solve the mystery and be
I think it's why people like Agatha Christie type mysteries so much. There's something exciting about everyone in a room trying to solve the same thing.
Right.
And everyone can have their own little game.
Yeah.
Like I love that Marshall's obsessed with the pineapple. Marshall's specifically obsessed with the pineapple. And everyone can have their own little game to play, maybe. Yeah. But everyone being together and on the same thing, that's the appeal of those like Knives Out. Like that's right.
And,
it's like
but there's also something funny about
one
like
thing.
There is a body, but it's Trudy, like she's alive. It's not a dead body. So there's something funny about the high stakes energy, but relatively low stakes. Like it's
right.
It's not
Ted
that
just
big
hooked
a
up with
deal.
some chick. But no, it feels really important. I love that Lily does name check it at one point. She's like, she is alive in there, right, Ted? I like because he just puts it in the air that this could be that.
This could turn very dark.
This could be that. You just don't know for sure. She wants to double check that. But I love the kind of real time energy of that next day, where it's just like thing by thing. And I remember that one of the jokes I love in the episode. I think it might have been my joke was Marshall, and it's so heady, but Marshall saying, hang on, I want to go make popcorn. And he goes into the kitchen to make popcorn. And the reason I pitched the joke is it's the exact length. Making popcorn is the length of a commercial break on terrestrial television. Right. So I thought it's just the whole show stays in real time during the commercial break. And then Marshall comes back with popped popcorn. For some reason, that was
well, it's funny. It's like, what were you doing during the commercial break? We were making popcorn.
They held the story for Marshall to make popcorn.
Yeah. Oh, I have a question.
Should have been a product tie-in there.
Because How I Met Your Mother was such... I mean, fundamentally, the entire thing is a mystery, but sometimes there's each episode, like Ted Mosby Architect or Pineapple Incident, like they're actual mysteries. Do you guys, were you mystery readers or lovers, or you just like messing with people?
Yeah, we used to. I mean, that was like one of my earliest memories as a kid was watching mystery on Masterpiece, like with my family, like Sunday nights. Like that was like, yeah. So I think that, and like it's funny because I haven't thought about this in a long time, but Murder, She Wrote, like I probably saw like every episode of Murder, She Wrote, and I don't like it. It's not like if you asked me to list my favorite 100 shows, it probably wouldn't be on there. But like I did spend a lot of my childhood watching that with my family.
But don't you think? I mean, it's kind of cool when you tease out like your influences are just floating around in there, and they're largely unconscious.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I grew up pretty obsessed with comedy mysteries. I watched Clue and Murder by Death over and over. And I just love those movies so much. A comedy mystery is is delightful. Yeah. And we got to do it.
And every writer on some level, you could make the case, is a mystery writer in that the judicious withholding of information until such time as it's appropriate to be revealed is a large part of narrative suspense and telling a story, even if it's like a literary novel or something. There's great
it's all
twist,
mysteries and cliffhangers.
Did you guys read Taffy's book, Long Island Compromise?
No, I want to read that.
There's such a good twist in there, like such a good mystery twist that she reveals in the last couple of pages what really happened. And it's just, it's such a good reveal. It's definitely worth reading.
Can I ask about the studio network's reaction to an unresolved sitcom episode? Did anyone say, hey, what the hell are you doing?
I had one. There was, watching it back, as we like when I said I have notes, like there's a few moments where it's like, we could have made that cut a little bit. I'm like looking at things that could have been a little different. I felt like the crowd noise at the bar at the very end was where when the bar was empty, it was like sounded like the bar was still full. Like I would have tweaked that a little bit.
Sound mix notes.
I remember at the time fighting this, and I 20 years haven't changed my opinion on this. I felt like them all eating the pineapple together at the end felt too, because I remember that wasn't in the original script, and that I remember that being added because I think there was like a studio note of some sort
of
like
group all together.
But Robin's still a part of the group, right? They're still friends. Yeah, and like I don't know. If I could like just chop that out, I would. That would. I sort of feel like it.
I see that,
and also it. I felt like it deadened the uncertainty of where Ted and Robin are going to go next, and that leads you into, I guess, the limo episode where Robin
that's
is
a good note.
going off with someone else for New Year's Eve.
I agree with that. I think it was a note, Carter. I think it was like, we still want to see it's too early not to end on the gang being the gang, and a note of discord. I think there was some panic about that. We wanted to be like, this
corny.
is the fun.
It was like kind of like a group hug at the end. It's like, no, it's not a group hug.
It also demystifies the pineapple. Like, I feel like they'd still be staring at that thing going, what the fuck is this?
It could be a poison.
It could be poisonous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's an interesting thing, that tension though between the network and studio, which, I mean, this is a total cliche, but they are so afraid of people missing things and turning it off in frustration because they don't understand it. So they value clarity in a way that I think writers like a little more gray and a little more obfuscation, and you know what I mean? Like less like they like to show, not tell. But that's an interesting tension, because I do know you guys have said, and any of our lovely studio network executives who are listening, that sometimes you'd get a network or studio note that actually saved you and was a great note.
Oh, tons of times.
So many smart notes. We had great executives.
Can't think of any, but yeah, I'm sure that happened.
There was a premium at the beginning on the group has to seem happy and together and connected all the time, and I think we knew we were heading toward this late season 1 discord, and we knew we were heading towards some stuff that was going to maybe be controversial with the studio and the network, and it was, right, Carter? It just was. I mean, we got some pushback on some of the like dramatic stuff we did at the end of season 1, and only over several seasons of us kind of proving ourselves and them realizing like this is actually a superpower of the show. It's not a flaw of the show. It's good that this show does kind of soap opera, if you will, or emo.
It's what distinguished the show from every other show.
It is. And once they got that, we didn't get that note anymore.
It was also it was such a pivot point for all of television and the way people watch television, because it was just a couple years before like DVDs were new, and it was a couple years before streaming, and we, like, especially CBS, there was no they certainly did not want us to think of this show as each episode is a chapter in a book. You know, they wanted to think of it as like each episode is a little, like a short story. They wanted each one to be its own short story that's
like
like
a box of chocolates.
Resolves.
Yeah, totally.
Like the box of chocolates. That's what it is.
But also, I mean, a lot of times you develop your voice or your creativity through that tension, right? Because like I said, this is a standalone episode. You could tune into this not knowing these characters, and you could figure it out very quickly. The world of it, the alliances, who was, but again, it was season. It forwarded the plot of the season all at the same time. And I think that there probably was, there's a great Leonard Bernstein quote, and it's something like, how do you create a work of genius? He said, you need a good idea and not quite enough time. And I think like there's something about creative tension and limitation. I know from directing independent films, like, oh, we're being kicked out of this bar. We had 5 shots left. We only have 1 shot. What are we going to do? You know what I mean? Like, and that happened on Happy Thank You More Please. And my AD came up with this shot that is actually one of my favorite shots in the movie, because I think it's really elegant storytelling. So sometimes these limitations or these barriers, or they force you into creative thinking. And I feel like you guys, in being so young and in wanting to be deferential to these people who are writing your checks and allowing your show to be on the air, but you also had to subvert a lot of their notes and smuggle in stuff that, you know what I'm saying? There was a really interesting creative tension going on.
I think we were Trojan horsing. Is that the verb I'm looking for?
Yeah,
Trojan horsing and some weirdness into what looked to be a traditional sitcom, and there was tension to that at times. There was tension
for sure.
Do you know what I liked doing in this episode, Josh? Playing off of something you have said before, Carter. Josh said an interesting thing at one point that was like, I wish Ted. I think it was in the Sweet Taste of Liberty episode. You said this about Josh. Like, I wish Ted would sometimes yes and Barney a little more. Would be a little more happy to go along with Barney's thing.
Yeah.
In this one, he does. Barney's like, do these 5 shots and unlock your brain. And Ted's like, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love the confidence of like, this isn't going to get me drunk. I'm going to take these 5 shots. And
right. I'm a good drinker. I'm a pretty good drinker.
It's like, so great.
He's suddenly Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, he's
yes, totally.
And this old man, he must admit he fell in love with you in New York City.
And now, commercials.
Greg, are you familiar with the book by, I think it's Barry Schwartz, but I'll have to look it up, The Paradox of Choice? Do you know this book?
No, but I've heard the phrase, and it's a good one. I think I know what
it's essentially about how the human brain, our brains, these old brains that haven't evolved in many years, we get paralyzed by choices. When we have, the market says, oh, you want infinite choices? Here's infinite choices. We don't want infinite choices. No. We want 2 or 3 pretty good choices.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
People feel that in the dating world. They're swipe, 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 swipe. They just can't deal with all the choices. And we're hungering for some more simplicity. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. I can't make a choice.
No.
I just want to be told what to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I was thinking about this vis-a-vis dating, vis-a-vis casting movies, where like a good casting director will winnow that down for you. Right?
Oh yes.
What if you had a good casting director, but for one of the biggest and most difficult purchases we make in our lives, buying a car? How many cars are there? Too many.
There's too many.
There's too many cars.
Too many cars.
So wouldn't it be great if you had like a casting director for cars?
Yeah, but such a thing doesn't exist.
Wrong. It does exist, Craig.
Oh my God. I walked right into your trap.
It's called CarGurus. CarGurus.
It exists. It is a casting director for your car. Josh came up with that phrase, and I really want them to literally, CarGurus, will you start just using that? It's a casting director for your car. This is true because so many actors come in and the casting director sees them all and they say, hey, look at these 10. And then every once in a while, one of them turns out to be Josh Radnor's Ted Mosby on How I Met Your Mother.
That's right.
And it's the best. And so CarGurus does essentially that. Maybe. Yes, it does.
They also do real price analysis, vehicle history, price drop alerts, and the best deals. No bad dates, just good cars.
Boom. CarGurus will connect you with trusted dealerships when you're ready, ensuring a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, CarGurus has more car listings than any other major online automotive marketplace in the U.S. Major online automotive marketplace in the U.S.? So you can find the best deal. CarGurus gives you the control to shop how you want to shop with the tools, information, and data-driven deal ratings you need.
It's no wonder SimilarWeb estimated traffic data shows CarGurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your next car today with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. Go to CarGurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal.
But how do you spell that, Josh?
Well, thanks for asking, Craig. That's CarGurus.com, CarGurus.com.
Got it. End of commercials. Back to show. Barney's Christmas morning joy that Ted has said yes to one of his plans, and Ted's doing those shots, and Neil is just giddy. It's almost like Neil is like feeling that emotion. He's like, I love it. He's like going crazy, and the way Barney is worshiping chaos throughout the whole episode, he's just like, I don't know what he's gonna do next, but I want to see what it's gonna be. Like, I loved that energy from him, and that Ted did Barney's idea.
He is the Lord of Darkness.
Yeah. He did hook up with Winnie Cooper in this episode, which, going back to our childhoods, also, could you imagine watching the Wonder Years being in love with Winnie Cooper?
That was pretty exciting. That was an exciting bit.
Josh hooks up with Winnie Cooper, and it freaking happens.
Well, it wasn't the only time.
That was before we could really do like that. We hadn't really stunt cast the show very much, and like she was probably one of the most like famous, iconic people to appear on the show at that point.
Totally.
Like that was
and
like
she comes
really
back,
exciting.
Yes?
Totally.
And she comes back. Yeah.
Well, I remember first season, there were 2 guest stars that were real, like pinch me guest stars. And I think first or second season, Danica McKellar was one because I watched every episode of The Wonder Years.
Yes,
and
same.
Michael Gross as my dad. The dad from Family Ties, who played my father.
Starstruck, yeah.
And Family Ties was, I saw every single one.
It's an Ohio show,
and
right?
It's set in Columbus, Ohio.
It's in Ohio for you guys. You guys must have loved that as kids.
So I remember being like, this is so trippy to be... And the fact that I was on the show, I wasn't guest starring on their shows. Like, they were coming onto a show I was on. It was so radical to me. And they were both so lovely too. I mean, I love if you're in the business long enough, you really do get to work with people that you just have admired for so long, or were in love with when you were 12, or you know what I mean? Like, there's something so nice about getting to work with people you admire so much, and also right sizing them. Like,
it was crazy for me because when I was like 12, I had a big poster of Michael Gross on my wall.
Yeah, you were a mess around him. I remember.
I was a mess.
Barely string together a sentence. Yeah, but I mean that was part of the thrill of being there for 9 years. Was so many brilliant actors came through. Yeah. Look, when you're 12 and you live in Ohio and you watch The Wonder Years or you watch Family Ties, those worlds feel both familiar because they're in your living room, but they feel very far away. And the first time you see, I remember I was in New York with my family. I must have been like 10 or 11, maybe. Like, remember the show Head of the Class?
Yeah, sure.
I was in Carnegie Deli in New York City with my family on a trip, and two of the students walked in together.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I lost the power to speak or move. Like, I was so unbelievably starstruck. At first I was like, I know those guys. And then I was like, like when I realized it.
Why you know them.
And I think that, like, growing up in Ohio, we grew up like not on sound stages. Like, we're not like showbiz families. Sure. You know what I mean? So when you first start meeting these people, like one of my first shows was I played one of Sally Field's law clerks in this show called The Court. And it took me like a little while to just be able to say 2 sentences to her, right?
I bet.
But then you work with people, you see their process, you see them work, and you see, oh, they're doing what I'm doing. Like, they're analyzing a script, they're doing their best. I've just watched them for a lot of years. And it's also strange because now people have watched me for a lot of years, and they have all sorts of
weirdness you're getting
me.
it. You're on the receiving end of that.
But I remember, it actually gives me compassion for people who the floor drops out underneath them when they see someone they know from TV or movies, because I remember that I had the same response when I started out. But it's very good, I think, to work with actors you've long admired. Most of the time, they're incredibly lovely and just really professional. But it's nice to right size them because you don't feel as much of a gulf between you and them. And you're like, you know what? We're both professional actors. We're both employed on this show, and we're going to do our work together. And it's really fun. I don't know. I always considered it a thrilling part of the job.
Living in LA does that because you sort of like, you also just sort of realize like, oh, this person just lives in a neighborhood in LA. They go to a Ralph's. Like they
My wife has this funny thing where she really wants to believe that the characters are like in Middle Ages or whatever. Like if she's watching, Game of Thrones or something, she's like, don't tell me they get smoothies at Erewhon. I don't want to know. I don't want to know that. It ruins the illusion for me. So, yeah.
Can you guys remember the first, was that Head of the Class one, your first like moment like that, Josh? And Carter, I want to know your first, do you remember your first one, Carter?
I remember, it's very similar too, because I grew up in suburban Ohio, as did Josh. And I remember like reading that William Catt, the greatest American hero, was going to be in a play. He was in a play at the Cleveland Playhouse.
Yeah.
And I remember I read that, clocked it, and forgot about it. And I was like, and I lived in a town called Shaker Heights, which is like a few towns away from but it's like a nice town. It's kind of, it's connected to everything with like the rapid transit, like the trail, the light rail. And so I sort of clocked that he's going to be in it and forgot it. And then I'm like walking around my neighborhood, like on a suburban street, on a sidewalk, no one else around. And there's a guy coming on the sidewalk.
Flying? Was he flying?
Coming the opposite direction, coming towards me, flying at me. No, but he walked right by. And it was William Catt. And it was like, that was the first like celebrity I ever saw. Like that was there's nothing else to that story either. I didn't say hi.
That's a fucking iconic moment. That is totally, that's a huge moment, man.
And Howard Hessman, actually. Howard Hessman was
you're kidding.
He was in a play at the Cleveland Playhouse also. And I remember like him. I saw him on stage, and like I think I may have like gotten him to sign my program and like that was like a huge deal.
Mine, man, I think the New York Mets lived in my hometown, some of them in Port Washington, New York, like during the 86, 87 seasons. And I would see them around. I know this isn't actors, but it was just like, I see them on TV and here they are. And one time we saw like Billy Joel driving around Long Island. I just remember those are some of my first ones of like, oh, these people exist in the real world. But then the funny thing is you think you get inured to it in LA. living in LA for years. And then, but every now and again, one really gets you. Like, we've been living in LA for a couple of years, doing How I Met Your Mother. We had our own TV show, and I was walking down the street one day, and I passed the actor James Marsden, I think James Marsters, forgive me, who played Spike in Buffy. I'm a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. And here I was like a professional. I think I was a showrunner at the time, living in Los Angeles. And he's walking up to me and I go, Spike! Like the dorkiest fucking fan in the world. I call him his character name. I freak out. He's clearly uncomfortable. And then I was like, I guess you never fully let go of, like, every now and again, one's just going to catch you and you're going to be a total dork.
One thing to remember, I think, is that if you go into TV and film, you are almost assuredly a fan of TV and film.
That's it. Maybe you don't want to lose that part of you.
Spike was
right?
probably psyched that it's like, oh my God, that's the showrunner of How I Met Your Mother. Like, I want to know that guy.
I try to remember that, like, when I'm shocked that people are so disoriented when they meet me, I try to remember that, like, I shared that back before I got behind the curtain of it all, you know? And now it's like, it's just my workplace. You know, I'm not particularly starstruck. There are a few people that, like, can kind of make me a little wobbly, but most of the time I know what they do. I know, you know, and I might respect them quite a bit. And I would want to, you know, talk with them, but not in a way like it's very, I've spent so many years trying to humanize myself when I meet people like that, to be like, I'm having lunch with my wife. I'll take a moment, you know, but it's such a strange thing for people to not be expecting to see someone they know from TV in a day. And it's, you know, Clooney said this. I remember George Clooney said this in a New Yorker profile, that he said, I try to remember when people see me on the street, it's the high point of their day. It's like the story they're going to tell at the end of the day. And sometimes they really lose their minds. And it's up to me at some point to ground them, to get their name, to get them back in their body so they don't feel humiliated by the experience of meeting me, so they can have like a nice experience of meeting me.
That's a really thoughtful take on that.
That's very cool.
I've thought about it for a long time, and I try to do that. Like, at my best, I do that. Sometimes you have indelicate moments, and some people probably think like, that guy's not a nice guy, but you know, I do my best.
I literally had a moment like that on the other side of that, because in my neighborhood, Bob Balaban lives in my neighborhood. Yeah. And he's like the level of guy that, like, you know, you see Bob Balaban, it's like, I like it, that's like serious starstruck. And I was with my daughter, and we had just like, we like literally watched the first 20 minutes of Waiting for Guffman, like, and then like went out to like get dinner and like saw him. And I had a moment where you know, just the fan in me just sort of took over, and I was like, excuse me, are you Bob Balaban? He was like, yes. I was like, can I shake your hand? And he was like, oh no, I'd rather not. I just wash my hands. and in that moment, like, I just said it sort of, I tried to say it casually, but like, he could have kept walking and turned that into the story that I'm like running in my head. Like, I wouldn't have slept for a week if he hadn't, but he was so sweet after that, and like talked to me and talked to my daughter, and was like just absolutely lovely. And it was a good, I mean, I still have not slept since that moment, and thinking about like, I shouldn't have tried to shake his hand, but like, it was like,
to any people out there, I'm not like super germophobic, but sometimes, like, after these shows I've been doing on tour, like, people really want to shake your hand. And by the time you've shaken like 20 hands, it's like, you feel like you really gotta sterilize.
Like, in the moment I heard myself saying, I was like, no, he doesn't want to, like, because it is. And also, like, it sort of made me like, culturally, are we past handshaking? Made me realize, like, I don't really shake people's hands when I meet them. Like, I feel like maybe that's there
were a lot of people during COVID that were like, I hope handshaking is over.
Yeah.
I think
fist bump is better for sure.
Yeah. Courtly bows, I think, was supposed to come back. Like, that was going to be the
my wife Jordana, this is a section, Carter, I think you remember this, but we call it Questions and Observations from a clinical psychologist who's never seen How I Met Your Mother and also happens to be married to Josh.
Good title.
We have an acronym.
Name of the segment.
Yeah, we have an acronym. It's impossible. Yeah. But this was her question and observation from the Pineapple Incident. Let's give it a listen.
So for me, this episode emphasizes the importance of quieting your mind and moving into your feelings, instincts, and body. Clearly, we see that Ted goes a bit too far, but there can be real benefits to this process, especially if you're particularly cerebral. So my question is, when have each of you let yourself lose your mind a bit? Alec, you too. And were there benefits? Were there consequences? And what did you learn? I'll also say that my favorite part of the episode is definitely the pineapple. You leave us with an unsolved mystery, and you had faith in your audience to interpret it however we wanted to project whatever we needed to onto that pineapple, almost like it was a Rorschach test. To me, it symbolizes the mystery, the unknown, the questions in life we have that we will simply never get answered. And I think the pineapple does this incredibly special thing where it celebrates that aspect of life, almost like a cosmic wink, rather than bemoaning it or seeing it as frustrating or anxiety-inducing, which is so often our go-to when it comes to the unknown. And I think that might be part of the pineapple's real staying power as a symbol for the show.
She's smart.
Very well said, yeah.
Yeah.
And end of show. I mean, come on.
I know. I don't know what we can say that would top that. I love that she interpreted the pineapple that way because she's a first timer. She's never seen the show.
Like, yeah, that's it. Okay, she got it. She got what we were going for. So yeah.
Well, in some ways, I mean, you can retrofit the pineapple into the larger story, which I think that, like you guys said, you were figuring out the show as you went. And I think you were also getting bolder about taking bigger swings as the season went on, as the network and studio gave you a longer leash, kind of like let you do it, you know, more and trusted your guys' vision. But I do think in the How I Met Your Mother verse, you could make an argument that, I mean, certainly mystery, the unknown, which Ted is so scared of, and Barney, I mean, from a Lord of Darkness perspective, is like more attracted to, but from a more chaos, you know, perspective.
Yes.
But there is, I think part of Ted's journey is he has to make peace with mystery. He has to make peace with the unknown, you know.
That
so there's this
huge part.
There's this kind of epic symbol of that sitting beside his bed one morning as almost like a wink from the universe.
I know. I've always felt like the so much of the like the central tension of the show is that struggle between fate and self-determination. Like even down to like the title, How I Met Your Mother. It sounds like it could be an instruction manual, like how to meet the love of your life, as though that's something you can just go out and do. When in fact, it's really like how this happened. What things had to happen to for this to unfold.
And also, it occurs to me, Barney has all kinds of like systems and formulas. He's trying to game the universe also.
Yeah.
Even though he's a little more open to the unknown. But
yes. But you cannot make it happen. You have to embrace that part of life that is just going to deliver things to your doorstep, and you make with them what you will.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the starting the show when they're 27 is like your 20s are so confusing, and you've been liberated from a system where, especially if you did college and maybe even grad school, like you're liberated from the system that's very ordered and regimented, and you know where you have to be when, and you have your meals here, and then you're thrust out into the world, and you just have to make sense of the chaos of like being young and in New York City and not having a ton of money and not knowing who you're going to marry and where you're going to live, and like there's so many unknowns. And I agree. I mean, I think it's a story about many things, but one of them is about a young man who has to accept mystery in his life and the wisdom of the unknown, you know, that there's actually something guiding him. I mean, if he'd married Stella, if she'd shown up at the altar, like he'd be divorced now. You know what I mean? Like there were things that would not have worked. So he was actually, what looked like heartache was actually him being protected on some level.
So maybe them eating the pineapple was them internalizing and ingesting that mystery.
Yes,
maybe it was genius that they ate the fucking pineapple.
I see it now. I didn't see it, but
do you see it? You see it? I'm trying to think of how to answer Jordana's other part of the question, which is like, can we remember moments like that? Just thinking about it as it pertains to the show, I think the entire endeavor of launching the show, Carter and I were essentially drunk with our own lack of experience, meaning we had no idea how to write a sitcom. We had never even written on a proper like multi-camera sitcom. And I think the sort of like way we just staggered through kind of season 1, we're just like, we're going to write it like a soap, but we're going to write it like it's a drama. It's going to have cliffhangers. You're going to have to watch. There will be these through lines. We knew season 1 would end with this crazy sort of like, again, we're trying to not do too many spoilers, but like something buoyant and full of elation and also full of heartbreak on the sort of two-sided coin that ends season 1. And Carter, don't you look at it as though we were like, we just didn't know enough to be afraid. We didn't know enough. We sort of were like, we had turned off the part of our brains that thought, we can't do this. And we just wrote what we wanted to write. It was, the whole show was kind of us doing the pineapple incident.
Yeah. Well, there certainly wasn't, there wasn't a feeling like I vividly remember this, and I can be neurotic about a million things in my life, but I remember just with absolute clarity feeling like this show is going to go the distance, like from right from the beginning. And I'd been on other shows where I thought that, but I always kind of like thought like, it's probably going to get canceled, and it did. And this one, like I remember, like we were just being like tuning out those voices of like, hedge your bets, don't swing for the fences too hard because you're on the bubble. I just felt like, I don't know, and it was foolish, and it was, but good foolish, I think, because it was just like, I love this show so much. I love the people I'm making this with. Like, the world is not going to take this away. The world is, this is going to keep going just because there's so much love here. It's so corny, but it like totally like, yeah. I think that's how we managed to like do things like the pineapple, and just knowing like, I just remember feeling like we're going to have years to do this show.
I felt it too. And I felt like we had turned off the parts of our brain that would let anything but that in. You have to have this kind of positive, productive delusion that it will keep going. And that if you put cool shit out there, cool people will come and you'll be able to all make something together. And I think we were basically in that state. Certainly when we were launching the show, we did not let those fears in. We didn't overthink it.
It strikes me that you guys knew just enough to write it in a way that was like recognizable of the form, but you had a kind of blissful ignorance in other ways that allowed you to be like somewhat bolder and weirder.
I think bolder and weirder. Yeah.
It's funny because the thing that jumped into my mind from Jordana's question was because I've just like my son is really into baseball, and he's like working on hitting, and he's been having trouble hitting, and it's the sort of the advice I've been trying to give him, and that his coaches have given him is like
5 shots.
Yeah, take 5 shots. No, he it's it's all like, what are you doing with your legs and your I don't know anything about baseball, so I'm useless as far as like what the advice is, but there's a lot of advice, and like you have like like you can shout from the sidelines, do this, do that, choke up, whatever it is, but like it's sort of like, if the thing that sort of broke through for him is like, you have to know that you've done enough learning to do this. Like you're prepared. Like so when you're actually doing it, don't think about. It's like playing music. Playing music is exactly the same thing, where it's like you're accessing your body memory as opposed to like your brain memory. And like, I don't sit down when I play I don't have to think like, okay, a C chord is a C, E, and a G. Like my just hand does it, and I know what an F is going to sound like next. And that's kind of like when you're up there with the bat in your hand, don't be thinking about like, okay, I got to bend my knees just like this. I got to do this with my hip. Like don't think about that, because you've already learned that. Your body has already learned it. Just swing, just do what comes naturally. And I feel like that's kind of how we approached the show. Like you could definitely say, on one hand, we were very inexperienced. We'd never run a show before, but like, I don't know, like I'd watched 10,000 hours of Charles in Charge. Like I knew how to write a sitcom, like I knew what a sitcom looked like, Only Charles in Charge. I've never watched another show. I've been very careful about that.
Well, but I do think that some of your youth and inexperience was an asset, because you were not so rigidly indoctrinated into a system or into a form that you couldn't play jazz with it. You know what I mean? Like it feels like you guys had like sitcom was the melody line, and then you were just playing jazz. You were just like good musicians.
Tom Waits said some quote that I won't get right, but I think it was to the effect of like, you don't want to get so good at music that it doesn't surprise you anymore. Like you as a songwriter, you want to not know that much because you want to just be like, well, this sounds good. I don't know what this is. Like, let's just go find out what that thing is. And you can hear that in great songwriters. It's great. Great songwriters aren't always amazing musicians.
Well, thank you.
And we didn't know enough. We didn't know enough. We didn't know all the notes.
That's an artist who has refused to uncouple with mystery. He's like, no, I don't. I want to trip into the space of not knowing. I want to be surprised and delighted and fascinated, enchanted, you know? And I think, like I said, I just think you guys knew just enough to write it with great professional polish, but you also, you weren't like that's not how we do it. You know,
we had a meeting once, Josh. We had a meeting like a year or two before we wrote How Much Mother with some showrunner guy that had been on lots of staffs and had a pilot that year. And he was just, we didn't love the pilot. We had the meeting just trying to get a job. We were like out of work writers. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but the guy we said, oh, great. You go in there and you compliment the pilot even if you didn't like it. You go, that was so great. We got sent the tape. We watched it before the meeting. It's great. And he goes, yeah, it's kind of like a B-, C+. If this one doesn't go, I'll just write another pilot next year. And we're like, oh, Captain, my Captain. And then you're just in the back of your head, you're like, let's never be that guy. Let's write the one we have to do for a fucking decade, and we will just die trying because we love it so much. And I think that we didn't know any better. We didn't think there was another pilot next year. This was it.
I was listening to a podcast with James Hollis, who's a great Jungian analyst and writer. And it wasn't his quote, but the name of the podcast that he references, it's something like, it might have been Bukowski or something, but it's find what you love and let it kill you.
It's a great line. Well, we've done it. That was the show.
Georgiana name checked me, and I just want to say this about that. It's Josh. I'm a little stunned that she has just seen right deep into my soul. I don't know what you've told her about me, but yes, the difficulty in letting go is like literally what I talked to my therapist about. And since I just had to cancel my therapy session for tomorrow, literally, I'm glad she brought this up. This is me. But my answer is interestingly exactly like all of yours. My version of letting go is doing something artistic sort of freely. Right, like the day up until you get to shoot or whatever it is, that's all the brain stuff, right? That's all the structure stuff and the checking and the right and the wrong. And then for me, it's like when I get a chance to like be on set directing, then that's letting go. That's like, oh, we just finally get to do this thing.
Yeah.
And that has this sort of feeling of freedom, and that's what I'm hearing from you too. And I mean, for Ted, it's a little more just he's just kind of out there. He's getting drunk and he's letting himself do things he wouldn't otherwise do. But the letting go so that you can create is definitely the inspirational moment for me.
I think that's really astute, Alec, because I think that's like I feel like it's reminding me of like back in the days when like I guess when the Apatow movies started coming out, and like, you know, it was that style of making TV and film where there's a lot of improv. Like we sort of like come up with we really like, there's not really a script. We're just gonna, or like Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I remember a lot of writers really like bristling against that, where it's like, oh, so like a joke that an actor comes up with on a set in the moment is gonna be better than this joke that we worked on in the room for 2 weeks. And it's kind of like, in a lot of cases, yeah, because like you're sitting in a room working on it for 2 weeks, as opposed to just like being in the moment and like reacting to the moment. And I don't know, so much of good stuff comes out of that.
Part of my reaction when I was talking about at the beginning of watching myself is that I think, it's 20 years later. I just feel like a better actor now, because 20 years more of doing the thing, you'll get better at it. But I think one of my issues as a younger actor was really wanting to do it right, which is like, that's a illusory goal. Like there's no such thing.
Yeah.
And
but you don't know that at that time.
You don't know that. And I was trying to be good and trying to do it right and be funny. But I wish, especially in the drunken stuff, even though I was almost like playing at anarchic, but in a more controlled way. Like I wish I had surprised myself more. Is what I'm saying.
Interesting.
And, you know, having worked now with like Al Pacino, like that guy is not trying to get it right. He's just trying to get a moment of truth that the camera catches. And he's willing to be like, do all sorts of weird shit so that happens, you know? And
yes.
I just feel like a little bit more like I understand the magic of on-camera acting, which is you're just trying to live life under, you know, you're in truthful under imaginary circumstances, as they say, but like, like you're trying to catch lightning in a bottle. You're trying to catch something where you're like, I hope the cameras were rolling on that one because that felt real, you know, that felt true. And I think I was young. It was my first kind of very public leading role. And I think I had some of those moments I'm describing on How I Met Your Mother. I don't think I was completely locked in my head, but I do notice sometimes in these early episodes, I remember this feeling like I wanted to be very good and I wanted to get it right.
Yeah.
And I sometimes want to tell that young actor, like, you know, relax, like be Babs, like surprise yourself. Like,
yeah. And it's sort of fascinating that you're saying that this is the most you've said that. And it's in the episode where Ted was supposed to be cutting loose the most.
I know
it's ironic,
but I think I know it is, but I think I felt the burden of being the comedic engine.
You were the engine, you knew, and you knew you had to carry the energy of so much of that.
I just knew
episode.
It was a good Ted episode,
sense,
and I wanted it to be.
Yeah. Well, guess what?
Know.
It is a good Ted episode. You're crazy, but also I understand how you're crazy. So
yeah.
I think it was such a good one. I'm so proud of that one, Carter. Our names came up on it, and Rebecca was like, "Oh, you guys wrote that one. That's a good one."
Yeah, it was pretty good. No, I know it was great. It was so much fun watching it. I hadn't seen it in years and years, and that was really. I'm sorry. I'm just looking over because I'm trying to think if I had notes, like observations. Okay, this is one thing that I don't know if you guys have talked about this on the podcast at all, and I feel even a little icky even bringing this up. But I remember at some point someone pointing this out first season, like about halfway through first season, and like it sent a shiver down my spine. There are jokes about Lily peeing in almost every episode of the first season.
Oh my god!
Like Lily peeing, and there are like big, like either it's like a little, like a one-off joke, or like a whole like plot point will come out of it.
And only a few episodes from now, there's a whole big peeing thing.
Well,
yeah.
Oh my
God! What does Barney
say? She's got a big tank.
She's got a big tank.
Yeah,
that
like when that moment happened, it reminded me. It like brought me back to like, oh god, that's right. There was that thing that like for whatever reason, like
we have not discussed Lily peeing on the podcast thus far. No, it has not come up. Now is probably all we're going to talk about.
Belly full of turkey lilies. We were talking about there was the double public urination bit. Barney got arrested for peeing on a church. At least Barney was with her in that one. But you're right. There's a lot of peeing on this show.
Yes.
In general,
there's one
a lot of peeing.
Coming up after drumroll, isn't it? Like where Marshall watches her pee.
Zip, where they've never
zip is a whole storyline about that.
Oh my god! All right, you're right. We're something's we got to look at inside our souls on this
going on in our lives 20 years ago. Another little thing. I don't know if this is worth mentioning, but our friend Pat Butler was in the episode.
I forgot it. Pat Butler, who's in our band, The Solids, and we've been in bands with Pat since college, and he is sitting at the bar at one point. And Rebecca and I were watching. We're like, it's Pat. I completely forgot. I'm glad Pat was in a classic. I'm glad we got Patty into a classic.
Yes,
as well deserved.
What else? Vomit 3 since '93. That was based on my life, and that was That was
I forgot that. That was you? Did it stay true?
Yeah, and it's making me realize like I think I've only vomited like twice in my adult life. I've actually kept it going for.
Wait, are you good since '93 still? Are you?
No, 90 because I mean, however like possibly autobiographical this is, there was a night like in the late '90s, I think that the streak broke. And then I had some bad chicken about 10 years ago, and
vomit free since
I've not
98
vomited my entire
work
life.
as well.
No,
guys,
it doesn't.
Vomit free since '83.
You
really?
Me.
Alec Lev
Some people are born with it.
a very anti-vomit. Alec thinks about this a lot. He's very, his whole life is about not vomiting. His whole life is designed.
You guys got to get out of your heads and come do some ayahuasca with me. We'll cure that right away.
Oh my God. I forgot that you were the source of that, Carter. That's impressive.
Yeah.
God knows it ain't me. I threw up twice during this podcast.
We're off the rails here. Anything else?
We're off the
pineapple incident.
Let's end on pee and vomit. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I've ever got.
All right. This is another wonderful letter we received. If you want to write us a letter or share a voice note with us about what How I Met Your Mother means to you or any other How I Met Your Mother related delights, please go to howwemadeyourmother.com, contact, and it should be pretty clear how you submit something. And we love reading these letters. This one is from Monique from Australia. And she writes, when Him Yim first started airing, I was 6 years old. Yes, my dad let me watch with him every week from the beginning as a kindergartner. It's probably a little young to start, but we'll take it. I think he only regretted that choice when I kept asking when there would be another episode about the damn pineapple. I remember physically writing out scripts for TV show ideas I had as a young child, acting them out for him, and him telling me that I could write my generation's version of How I Met Your Mother someday. Obviously, I couldn't write anything as magical as Him Yim. I just wanted to make him laugh as much as Him Yim made him laugh. My father passed away in 2010, and I had just turned 11. School was starting back up, and my best friend at the time and I spent our lunch reenacting scenes from Him Yim, which made that era of my life have some normalcy attached to it, and that is something I'm eternally grateful for. Did we understand all the jokes and innuendos? Not a chance. But we knew when we were older, we would be watching, with occasional jaws to the floors, when the dirty joke or double entendre finally made sense to us. I watched every episode of Him Yim every week until the last episode that aired less than a month before I turned 15. I felt my father's presence while also being able to feel myself shape into the woman I was becoming over these seasons, a feeling I'll have with no other show. My father was only 33 when he passed away, which obviously I had no comprehension whatsoever about still being a young age to pass away. The gang growing up and growing old together, having adventures through their 30s, still having things to figure out, made me understand how much life there is to live, how much we can miss out for ourselves when we don't embrace the now and the future, and how important it is to have hope. These sentiments have pushed me out of my darkest moments and into the light. My grief shifted from anger at the world, blossoming into finding pockets for the love I feel for people in the past, future, and present, which I fully attribute to the characters of the show, especially Ted. I'll be 26 shortly, and I can't remember a time in my life without watching Him Yim, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Thank you for raising me. Thank you for forcing me to believe in love, even when I'm brokenhearted. Thank you for the laughs and for the tears. Cheers, Monique.
Wow.
Thanks, Monique.
I don't know what to say. I feel like I'm going to burst into tears. That's so nice. Thank you, Thank you, Monique. My God, I'm sorry for your loss, and still happy the show was any help to you at all and continues to mean something to you. Thank you for that story. Truly, it's why we wrote the show.
There's a How I Met Your Mother for everyone. Like, there's as many How I Met Your Mothers as there are people who watch it and love it, right?
Yeah.
And we all have our own. Like, I have a very specific relationship with How I Met Your Mother. I played.
Yours is the most specific.
I have a very specific relationship to it, and a very complicated relationship to it. And there's also there's a certain way that some of these people have. Their relationship to it is so simple and beautiful, and just a point of connection with, like being able to be a bridge for people who, you know, it didn't sound like they had trouble connecting, but it does sound like it certainly deepened their relationship to be able to share this, and her interest in comedy and her delight in making her father laugh. All of that is so lovely, and just the fact that we're a part of that without knowing we were a part of that. That's what always floors me.
That's what's such a gift about getting to hear these stories. It's such a gift that fans are sharing with us, that this is really our way of talking to the fans and connecting with people and hearing what the show meant to them. And yeah, it's proof positive that you make something and you send it out into the world, and it belongs.
It goes to Australia.
It belongs to the world. It belongs to Australia. This is hers. This is her version of the show, and that's mind-blowingly amazing and beautiful. And thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Monique.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven in New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radnor and Craig Thomas. The show was produced by me, Alec Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios, and our digital content producer, aka Gen Z Master, is Emily Blumberg. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor, with additional music by Craig Thomas and Andrew Majewski. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyourmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Want some merch? Click on the store link or go to howyougetyourmerch.com. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's newsletters on Substack. Order Craig Thomas's debut novel at craigthomaswriter.com/novel. And you can subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love with you or just New York City?